Hey everyone, this is my third time trying to record this because I'm such a chatty Kathy. Hey, I'm working on 3 articles right now, and I'm in the middle of getting them published. They're all about 3/4 of the way done. Two of them have something in common with each other. But why I decided to come to you, I got a text this morning from a colleague. I really admire my colleagues. It's been so important for me to be in consult groups and it's taken me a while to find the right consult groups, but I just want to shout out to the different consult groups I'm in because I'm in awe of my colleagues. Uh, but one of them texted me this morning. She goes, "Hey, do you ever recommend the book High Conflict Couples, the workbook to your couples?" I thought, oh, I learned about that book on the Showtime show Couples Therapy with Dr. Orna Gerlach. I thought, how funny that she's asking me that because I'm actually writing an article about Dr. Orna Gerlach. She just did an interview with Jay Shetty. I thought, interesting. And then I was agitated. I was like, and I thought, well, why are you agitated, Traci? What's coming up for you around this? And I thought, there are so many different couples communication techniques. I was just following this young therapist that's only been practicing couples therapy for eight or so years. And she's phenomenal at branding. I think she's probably really good at what she does, but it's so technique driven. And so on the one hand, I thought, oh, that's really cool. I bet people are really drawn to, she says, I'm going to fix your relationship. And I thought, how do I feel about that? It's good branding and marketing, but what do I feel about that? And what I'm aware of that we're not addressing in our culture, Dr. William Doherty says this thing. He said, we're treating marriage like a consumerist project. A, that we can outsource the fixing of our marriage, and B, we can trade up and buy a new product. Like, we have this in our DNA right now. There's this mentality about how we treat human relationships. It's fascinating to me. And what happens when you've been practicing as long as I have, which is 22 years now, the theory starts to fade into the background and you start to really work from, I don't always remember what theory. I mean, you're working from what works, but what seems to be happening more and more is the essential quality of couples therapy that I write about when I talk about Dr. Orla Gerlach's interview with Jay Shetty is we are learning to bear the otherness of our partner. That the very definition of loving another human is a really complicated endeavor. And it is very hard and growthful. This young clinician that I was just telling you about that does the good branding, she has this one-liner that I do really like. She says, compatibility isn't something that just is. It's something that's achieved. And I think that's interesting. Now, I disagree. I do think there's some basic values around, do we want to have children or not have children, right? There's some difficult questions that if you're not aligned on, probably will be difficult to bridge. But I agree with her on the most part. But there's something about when we're framing up couples therapy in this consumerist way that colludes with some deeper psychological defense mechanisms. I have couples coming in dreaming and truly believing that I will have some magic technique or philosophy that will fix their relationship. And that's a defense against a whole bunch of stuff. There's probably a lot of defenses going on. And after churning it over this morning, after this text from this colleague, I went, oh, this is it. So I made a little list and I want to kind of read them to you. The article's not done, and I just felt so compelled to come talk about it before the article's done. So the first thing is to learn tools and techniques or a script or a real structured way to relate is a way to avoid vulnerability. So I can be sharp or I can follow the script, so I can use my old reactivity, or I can learn to not use my old reactivity, but follow a script so that I never have to say the thing that's really going on for me, which is I don't feel wanted, or I'm scared you don't love me anymore. And that's really important to be able to start feeling that and saying that. This one's big. It's like the number one defense mechanism I feel in our culture. Techniques give us the illusion of control. If I have the right words, then I'm going to get the result that I want. It gives us this sense that we can somehow manage the chaos of life, but love just does not work that way. That's not how love works. Um, this one, I have to say thanks to my consult group, because I feel like this is something my colleagues have really illuminated for me. Um, when we fixate on communication skills and techniques, what we're really doing is we're avoiding this existential grief of maybe the loss of the early days of the relationship when everything was novel, when you had a bunch of dopamine and norepinephrine making you feel magically in love and wanting to hump like monkeys, right? Um, and those early days are intoxicating. I mean, Stan Tatkin talks about from UCLA, he talks about how our brain on those early stages of love does look like an intoxicated brain. And sometimes there's a desire for tools because it can be a way to avoid facing the grief that maybe relationships don't provide us this transcendent feeling or this sacred feeling. We're putting a lot of expectation that relationships are supposed to be this transcendent. Maybe they can be, but I think that takes quite an evolved person to get there. Um, Talking about connection. I used to have a boyfriend say this to me when I was young. He says, we talk more about the relationship than actually having the relationship. And actually, what tools can do is it back to the vulnerability piece. It's a way to sort of circle the vulnerability drain without actually um, being in the conversation with your whole body and spirit. But here's the one I was sort of alluding to first. This is what I think was creating the agitation in me when my friend sent the text. This is happening so much right now to me, and I actually have turned away a couple couples that were in the first session. It was clear this was what was going on, and it was immovable. It wasn't going to change. Give us tools, fix us, and you're going to be responsible. All the work is on your head. And it was a bypass of some of the other things I just said, of emotional intimacy and grief and honesty. For me, it doesn't work because it objectifies me. I'm now a machine to be projected on that needs to function and fix. And if there's too much of a bit of that is normal. If there's too much of that going on, I don't enjoy the work because I'm actually a human that wants to be in relationship with this couple, right? And then the last defense is chaos management. Lots of this going on. I think it's linked to control. So maybe I should have put those two together. But there was a fellow on LinkedIn. I can't remember his name right now. He writes about philosophy, and he said something really beautiful the other day. He said, we need to become so steady inside that we can manage the chaos of the world. If we don't, we grab onto the first theory that can kind of name our experience. And as soon as we name our experience, we stop having our experience. So the tools and techniques and skills, it's like naming so that we can feel we're in control, less chaos. Also, the tools and techniques, I find that anybody that's had childhood trauma we become obsessed about tools and techniques because the chaos of love can reinvigorate some of that chaos of one's young life. And so they're looking for the tools and techniques to be externally regulated. And I think about externally regulated. Is that too psychobabble? Externally regulated means I'm looking for something outside of me to be the anchor and help me ground. I say we need to have about a 50-50. We need to have 50% inside of us and 50% outside of us. But for some folks with childhood trauma, they're really oriented towards all of that being outside. So that's the tools and techniques for me, the therapist. So I'm going to shut my little document. Skills and tools help. but I just needed to name this agitation in me. That oftentimes there's other things going on when we're obsessed with skills and tools. The other thing is, I think I'm at about a 20% hit rate. I can teach couples skills and tools and they try them for a little bit, but it's kind of like going on a diet without doing the inner work of why you might be eating and choosing the foods that you do. It's willpower. So they'll use the skills and tools, but they haven't really transformed the couple's system. And that happens through relating and a facilitated conversation. And that your limbic system, your body and mind connection no longer want to react in the same patterned way because the facilitated conversation has created more possibility in your neural pathways. And that happens through relationship and being in it, not from the top down, from the brain memorizing the steps of a scripted dialogue. 11 minutes. This was long. Thank you for listening. I hope it was useful. There will be an article soon, so you can come watch or read. Read in hopefully a shorter way. But I just had to say it. My body went, before you forget, say it out loud. All right. Thanks, everyone. Oh, I did not intend to match the glasses with the shirt. I cleaned out my office this week, like went through all those little boxes up there, every little nook and cranny in my cabinet. And I found these glasses that I really love. And they were sitting here and I threw them on. But now I'm like, oh, a little matchy, Traci. But anyway, I still decided to be matchy anyway. Okay. Hope this is useful.